morning, Willow class. Today we are going to be having a look at decimals and fractions and converting between the two. So we're going to start off with some quite simple examples, which we have done something similar in the past, and then we'll move on to do a little bit more. So here I've got the number 0.7. Now you can see I've just done my lines down. I've done my place value chart. So I've got the units here and the decimal point. Remember, the decimal point does not have a value, it doesn't have a worth. So it isn't in a box of its own, it's just on the line. Then I've got my tenths column followed by my hundredths column. So here you can see I've got no whole numbers, I've not got any units, but I've got 7 tenths. So I've got 7, and then my denominator is tenths, 7 tenths. And that's because this symbol here, as we know, stands for divide. So if I did 7 divided by 10, then I would have 0.7. 7 divided by 10 equals 0.7. Therefore, that's why 0.7 equals 7 tenths, and the 7 is in the tenths column. So when I look at this one, I've got 0.82. So my 8 here has been carried over from the hundredths column because I would have 80. So it's been taken over and I've got 8 tenths. So because I've got 8 tenths, I've got 2 hundredths. In total, I have got 82 100ths. So I've got 82 over my denominator, which is 100. Okay? So let's just make sure that looks like a 0 and not a 6, sorry. So I've got 82 hundredths. Again, I have no whole numbers, so I don't have a number in front of my fraction. Finally, this one, I have got one whole number. So this is my whole number. And then I've not got any tenths, and I've not got any, and then I've got 4 hundredths. So I've got 4 in my hundredths column. So my denominator is 100, not 10, okay? I could put a 0 here because I've no tenths, but that's just the same as having nothing in front of it anyway. So I've got 1 whole and 4 hundredths, which is 1.04. Okay, what I'm now going to do is give you a couple of fractions that I'd like you to put into columns. So I have got the fraction 74 hundredths. So can you pause the video and write that as a fraction, as a decimal, sorry, for me. Okay, so hopefully you have got the answer 0.74 because we've got 74 hundredths with no whole number. So we have 0 point, and then it's 74 hundredths. Therefore, the furthest it will go is my hundredths column. Okay. If I had, let me go with 2. This is a trickier one. 1,000. Oops, sorry. 2 over 1,000. Okay. So now, if we look back at my place value chart here, then I have got this is the next column, okay? And after my hundredths comes my thousandths. So we've got, let me just put that there. So that's my thousandths column here after my hundredths. So because I've got 2 thousandths, then my 2 would go here in my thousandths column. I don't have any hundredths, and I don't have any tenths, okay? Let's not forget our decimal point on that line, and I don't have any units. Just remember, if I had, for example, 4 wholes and 2 thousandths, then this 0 in my units column would be a 4, because I've got 4 whole numbers, 4 units, and then I've got 2 thousandths, 4.002. Okay, let's move on. I'd like you to pause the video for me and just write these as a decimal, okay? So we're doing the inverse now. We've done from decimal to fraction, so can you do from fraction to decimal? Off you go. Okay, so you should have got these answers, 0.4 because I've got 4 tenths, and this is my tenths column after my decimal point. This is my units, and this is my tenths, okay? Not tens, tenths, don't forget. Then I've got my hundredths column here. So I've got 26 hundredths. So therefore I've got 26 here, which starts in my hundredths column, which comes after the tenths. So I've got 0.26 as my answer. Okay, 0.26. Now, what happens though if my denominator isn't 10 or 100 or 1000? Well, let's have a look here. So this one is 1/5. So the thing that I need to do is make sure, first of all, I convert it to have a denominator that is either 10, 100 or 1000. So what have I done to my 5 to get 10? Okay, we've done this before. We're making equivalent fractions. I've times it by 2. So therefore, I do that with my numerator. 1 times by 2 is 2. So 1/5 equals 2/10. They are the same. If I've got 2/10, then that means I've got 0, I've not got any whole numbers, and I've got 2 in my tenths column. So I've got the answer 0.2. What about this one then? I've got 14/20. Now, I could make it as tenths, or I can make it as 100ths. This one, I'm going to make it as tenths because I recognise that to get this to 10, all I've needed to do is halve it, or divide by 2. If I'm dividing by 2 for the denominator, I have to divide by 2 for my numerator. So 14 divided by 2, how many 2's go into 14? There are 7. So now if I've got 7/10, like we did on the first one, 7/10 equals 0.7 because the 7 is in my tenths column. So 14/20 is the same as 0.7. Okay, so I can get my equal sign in there because they're equivalent, they're equal. Finally, before I move on to your activities for the day, I've got 17/20. Now, 17/20, I could make it to tenths, okay? Let's just have a quick look what happens if I make it to tenths. So for this, I would have to divide it by 2. For this, I would have to divide it by 2. But 17 is an odd number. Therefore, I can't divide it by 2 and get a whole number. I would end up with decimal places, and I can't do that with fractions. So what I need to do is convert this to hundredths, okay? So instead of tenths, I'm having it as hundredths. So what have I done to my 20 to get 100? I've times it by, count up in your 20s, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. Times it by 5. So you will then times your numerator by 5 to get your new numerator. Once you've done that, you then need to tell me what that is as a decimal, 0 point, and then how many hundredths, okay? I want you guys to quickly have a go at doing that for me. So I've not given you the answer, I've just given you a little bit of time to do it, and I'm going to go through this. So we've got 5 multiplied by 7, first of all, which is our 30. And then I move on to do my 5 multiplied by 10, which gives me 50, plus 30 gives me 80. So I've got 8 tens. So 17 multiplied by 5 gives me the answer 80. Oh, no. I've just realised it's not 80. Crikey, it's a good job you guys aren't here because you'd be shouting, no, you've got it wrong. 5 multiplied by 7 is 35. So I've got my 5 units carried my 3 over, and then 5 multiplied by 10 plus my 30 gives me 80. So if I've got now 85 hundredths, then 85 hundredths would give me 0.85, doesn't it? Okay, so I've got the answer 0.85 as my final answer. Hopefully you guys got that same answer. And what you are going to do today is similar to this. You're going to have to convert them from decimals to fractions and vice versa from fractions to decimals, okay? Good luck everybody and have a fabulous day.